"It's magnificent, Master," Brittany spoke up, congratulating him. "Yes, no human army will ever be able to tear them down. It is truly a great symbol for our creator," Helania clapped. His other creations also congratulated him for his magnificent city. Now he would need to create entrances into the city. Instead of the usual method, where people can go straight through the walls through a tunnel, Han thought it would be better to be creative about this. Imagining the edge of an arrowhead, Han made it so that the entrance was 45 degrees to outside. The hallway would continue until it was halfway into the wall. Then the hallway went the other way. If looked from the top, the entrance looked like a circumflex accent. By having it like this, an opposing force couldn't use their might as effectively since it went diagonally. If an army broke through the gate, those inside of the wall could push out a solid slab of concrete at the top of the circumflex. He didn't think this would likely happen, but maybe it would be fun allowing an army to get that far. The walls formed a giant pentagon, so each of the faces had an entrance for people to enter. In the center of the city, he placed his stronghold there. He had Helania inform all those inside of the stronghold to expect to be moved to a new location so that no one would be surprised. Considering how strong his stronghold was, Han didn't feel that it was necessary to surround it with a wall. Aside from the main entrance, there was no points of ingress. The stronghold prevented outsiders from teleporting into the structure, so the only way to successfully invade was to go through all the layers and beat his creations. Maybe he could set up some kind of competition where adventurers attempt to invade and reach a designated floor. If they succeed, then they would get some rewards. Now it was time to fill the city with stuff because at this point it was just the foundation, walls, and stronghold. Imagining the city into 5 triangles, he designated each one to have a particular purpose. The most important one was food, so one of the triangles was just for food. Instead of having traditional farmlands, Han set it up to look like those modern soil-free farms. He built large buildings, each one to grow particular crops. There were buildings for fruits, vegetables, and grain. Inside of each would have golems that would take care of harvesting and care for the crops. When it came to meat, having them inside of the building didn't seem practical. Also, Han didn't care for them to take up a large area just to have them graze in the city. He tried to think about this for several minutes, not coming up with a solution. "Master, is there an issue with the city?" Annaculus asked him, concern in her voice. "When it comes to things that need to grow, I came up with a good solution. The problem is with animals, because they take up so much space. I do not want them outside of the city, but inside of the city does not seem like a good idea. I have lived near farms and certain odors come with livestock," he groaned, remembering his childhood. "How about placing them in another dimension?" Horacia asked, confused as to why Han didn't come up with the same idea. "Because," Han wanted to answer, but after thinking about it, he said, "That is a wonderful idea, Horacia." Hearing Han compliment her, she blushed and covered her cheeks with her hand. This only made it so she looked even more adorable. The other floor protectors offered their congratulations at her coming up with such a great idea. For the locations where the separate dimensions would be located, he designed grand archways. Instead of being able to see the other side, a person could see a different dimension. For livestock that grazed, he created a world that was an endless field of grass and other vegetations which animals enjoyed eating. Splattered all over the place were lakes and rivers for the animals to drink from. The new dimension was a healthy ecosystem, where even the rivers and lakes were teeming with fish. If someone were to enter this dimension, they would not want for anything. The second archway was for a water-only world. This entire world would be one giant ocean, where sea life would live. When entering this world, there was a substantially large area for people to work in and for ships to dock. Golems would sail the giant ocean and fish for sea animals, and bring them to the structure where they would process the creatures. This setup was impressive because they wouldn't have to worry about overgrazing or fishing. He wondered how people who were all about free-range animals would think about the setup. In addition to having access to such a wide diversity of food, it was entirely automated with the use of golems. This meant that those who were interested in working in the agricultural and fishery industries could participate, but it wouldn't be necessary. Moving on to another section, he made this one specialize in education. Considering his background, Han understood the importance of an educated society. He created buildings that would be for K-12 and a university campus. At first, these buildings would be empty, but knowing that there would be people coming into the city, Han factored in the growth of students. For this area, he would create teachers to help the kids and adults through the full education program. Compared to teachers on Earth, his creations would have stronger analytical skills and greater comprehension of their material. The next section would be dedicated to businesses, so there would be restaurants, stores, and places for innovation. Since he doesn't know what type of things would appear in these areas, Han decided to leave this area open. There would be buildings near the stronghold that would handle business ideas and help create the businesses with the help from mages and golems. Just to give some people inspiration, he placed a wide variety of restaurants, grocery stores, and common stores seen in other cities and towns. To have a place for people to stay in, Han had the next section be dedicated to housing. Instead of having houses that would take up a lot of space and be useful for only a few people, Han placed several buildings that looked like apartments. For those that were only visiting, some hotels were created. The hotels were made to look very elegant and fancy, like some of the higher-end hotels on Earth. He wondered how people would react to this level of luxury. For the last section, it was used for outdoor social living and resources. Loving the precious idea, Han created dimensions that were purely dedicated to certain resources and the processing of those resources. Things like trees, coal, mana stones, and much more. The nice thing about this method was that most of the industrial byproducts wouldn't leak into the current world. If needed, he could always destroy those dimensions. In addition to the resources, he also included parks and other outdoor recreational areas for people to enjoy. To help not make it look so monochromatic, he placed trees and grassy areas all throughout the city. With the walls, he made the inner-facing part see-through so that the desert could be seen. This made it so that the city didn't feel so restrictive with the wall. As a person approached the wall, this illusion would go away so people wouldn't run into it. Though it would be funny to see people walking into it, Han didn't imagine people would appreciate his humor. Enjoying how the city looked, he needed to figure out how to attract people to come to his city. No matter how great it was, if there was no residents, then it was pointless. Going into his throne room, he spent several hours thinking about how to solve this problem.